Okay, good to see everybody. Welcome back. Really excited to be back here. Excited to have the guys back in town. Yesterday was a little bit like first day of school. So having the upperclassmen coming back to school yesterday and greeting the rookies and the quarterbacks that have been here for a few days, I thought was a fun process to get through. So a lot of meetings yesterday. Today we'll shift gears and we'll get into a walkthrough mode, but really excited to be back, and I think the guys you can see are ready to work. Very, very pleased with where they are from a conditioning and body standpoint. I think that was evident in their body weights and their lean muscle mass and how they came back here. These guys put in a ton of work, and I'm very appreciative. And then even, I think it's obvious they spent time with their playbooks. We just had a walkthrough this morning. I was very impressed with how on top of it the guys were. So they're locked in, which I appreciate. So we have miles to go. We have a lot of work that we have to do, but that work will really come on the heels of a very good spring where the guys put in some good reps, and I'm appreciative of that as well. So on Deshaun, I know you guys will ask a question, and I appreciate that. I don't have much to add. I don't have a ton of information for you. We have a plan, and as information becomes available, we can adjust that plan. But short of that, I really don't have too much that I can provide. But happy to answer any questions you guys have.
So what is the plan now, right now with Deshaun? Does he get all 4 reps?
Yeah, I think guys will rotate in there, Tony, like we always do. If you saw in the spring, we rotated Deshaun and Jacoby as well, so that really doesn't change. So the truth is we have to get all those guys ready to play. Doesn't mean that you divide the reps exactly evenly among 4 different guys, but we got to get all of them ready, and we have a plan to use all of them at different times.
So will Deshaun and Jacoby get equal first-team reps starting out?
Yeah, I wouldn't get into like the exact percentage, but they're both going to get a ton of reps. And really, Jake, I'd tell you, they both got a ton of reps in the spring, and I think that was the benefit of that offseason program, was getting Deshaun a ton of reps, getting Jacoby a ton of reps. So that doesn't change.
If there's a suspension that happens during training camp, does that change the way you're going to divvy out reps between those 2 guys?
I think we have a plan, and we'll see what information comes available, but certainly more information may adjust what we're doing, yes.
Kevin, is it disappointing that there isn't any information right now as you guys start training camp?
No, I just think that's the nature of this game, and I think player availability, we have to deal with that in game, and you get into the 4th quarter or the 3rd quarter of a game, and that's our job to adjust. That's the player's job to be ready as a next man up mentality, as you've all heard 1,000 times before, and then it's our job as coaches to prepare everybody to play.
But Kevin, aren't you kind of
that plan? You talked about this plan. You guys
Yeah,
have
that's-
to waste a rep. Is it tough?
No, I think that's, again, we got smart coaches up there, so they're doing a nice job.
Aren't you kind of anxious, Kevin, if that's the right word, to find out? I mean, I know we are.
Well, that's yeah, if you're anxious, Jeff, I can't help you. But I think we just deal with it. That's kind of our mentality. We're going to deal with July 27th, and then we'll get to tomorrow. We'll deal with tomorrow, but that's kind of how we operate.
Kevin, Josh Rosen was available since March, and yet it wasn't until the eve of reporting that he was brought in. Why was that?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Tony, other than to say we felt like we should add a 4th quarterback and brought Josh in for a workout and obviously signed him. But I wouldn't read too much into the timing of it.
Is it fair to say that if Deshaun is suspended, that Jacoby Brissett will be the weak point starter in his place, or did you bring in Rosen as a potential look to see if he could earn that
No,
spot?
Jacoby's our backup quarterback. If Deshaun's unavailable, Jacoby's the starter.
Can you give us an update on Denzel Ward and all those guys on PUP?
Yeah, I don't know the list of everybody who's on there, but Denzel is working through it. I'm confident in the next couple weeks he'll be out there, but he's coming along just fine.
Walker's injury, didn't seem to have an injury at minicamp.
Yeah, something that he's done over the break, but again, another one that not too concerned about.
And do you expect Conklin to be able to practice at all in training camp?
I do, yeah, at some point. He's doing a really nice job. You know, I want to highlight Jack. He lived here all spring, all summer. I mean, I think he may have had a cot set up somewhere in the building, and he has been working so hard. And I notice it, his teammates notice it, so he's progressing. I don't have the exact date when he's back out there at practice. We'll make sure we work with the medical staff on that one. But he's worked really, really hard.
And then Sheldon Day was the fourth guy yesterday. Do you expect all those guys ready for week 1?
Yes.
David Bell, that was a football injury because he's on PUP.
Right.
So when did that end?
Late in the off-season program, I don't know the exact, might have been in that mini camp. Had something nagging, took a look at it, but ultimately we'll be okay.
Have you addressed with the team? I know you said you guys have a plan and idea what you're going to do when and if news comes down. Have you addressed the team though about the Deshaun situation and just being prepared for anything that might occur?
Well, as you know, Darryl, I'm not going to get into the specifics of what we talk about, but with our team, and all 32 teams do this, there are things that come your way that you got to be able to deal with day to day, week to week, month to month. So those are not unusual for an NFL team to deal with things like that. But it really, I go back to what I said earlier. We're going to deal with what's in front of us that day.
In fairness, this is something that's unprecedented, this situation. So it is a little bit different than what 31 other teams are dealing with when you talk about off-field stuff.
Yeah, Kimberly, I would just tell you, it may be unprecedented compared to the rest of the league. For us, we just think about what's in front of us for that day. So, like I told you, we had a good walkthrough this morning. My mindset goes to what we're going to do this afternoon. Absent new information, there's really not much more that we can change in how we operate.
How confident are you that, given what Deshaun was able to do throughout the whole entire offseason, the plan I'm sure that you guys have for him if he's out on suspension, how confident are you that he'll be able to kind of pick it back up and kind of not miss too much?
Yeah, I don't want to speculate too much, Mary Kay, but he's a professional. He works very, very hard. I've been very impressed with Deshaun going back to the first day he walked in here in April, the amount of work that he's put into this, the amount of work he's put in since we broke from minicamp. So he's very diligent about those things.
There's such a long lag time from the final preseason game to the first regular season game. You feel that's like the opportunity to prepare your backup quarterback to start the season right there?
Yeah, I do think with the 3 preseason games, now you do have a unique 2-week prior to you get started in your regular season preparation. So we've thought that out, Tony, and have a plan for that, but we'll await information to see if we adjust to that. But certainly, whether you're talking about getting Jacoby ready or getting the backup right tackle ready, having those extra days is important.
Hey, Coach, when we've talked to the players, they're very excited about having him as their quarterback. I mean, there's a wow factor from seeing him out on the field with each other. Is part of the plan that if there is a suspension, you'd have to deal with a letdown, that these guys would be let down that he's not going to be there?
Yeah, I don't think so, Jim. Like you said, I mean, these guys enjoy being around each other. I really think they've done a nice job of coming together as a team through that offseason. But it's the oldest thing of football. It's a next man up mentality, regardless of who's out and why they're out. That's just how we operate. And, we're trying to get a football team ready to play, and that includes our starters, our backups, guys that become backups throughout the course of the season, rookies, veterans. So that's kind of how we operate.
How much does Deshaun not having played last year affect maybe the number of reps you give him, given that he didn't get many last year?
Yeah, I think we take all of it into account, Scott, and certainly that's something. Missing 2021 and missing those reps are something that we take into account. But I really go back to the spring. I think we had a really solid spring of work that I think Deshaun in particular gained a lot of ground.
Kevin, we heard from Miles and Greg today, and they didn't shy away from how good they think this defense can be. What are your expectations for that group this year?
Well, I think any of those expectations are certainly internal, and I think those guys push themselves, and I think they want to be great together, and I think that's the important part of this. But there's a lot of work that has to be done before we get there. But I do appreciate our defense. I appreciate that we have some guys that have now been in the system for a few years, and I think they're excited to get to work. But anything that they put in terms of expectations, those are the internal type of things.
They were really good last year towards the back stretch of the season. What changed with that group?
Yeah, I think, if you go way back to 2020, it was a new system, so it was new for everybody. And then going into 21, same system, but a lot of new faces. So I think year 3, it's the same system for the 3rd year now with a lot of faces that have been in that system. So I think the confidence comes from guys that have been in the system now, have played meaningful snaps in that system. I think the coaches work really, really well together. I think Joe and the staff have done an outstanding job. So I think that's where that confidence comes from.
When you talk about that internal motivation that some of these guys have, and especially for Greg, you know, a guy who's only going into his 2nd year, he kind of talked a bit more at length about that. Just how important that is when you have these younger guys and they're entering the NFL life or in the early stages of it, that they can motivate themselves like that.
Yeah, I think, you know, you mentioned Greg. Corners better be confident because that's a tough job. You're out there on the island so often. But I think confidence, you've heard it said, comes from demonstrated ability. So I think so much of it is our guys getting on the grass, getting in games, doing it, making a mistake, correcting that mistake. I think that's where it comes from.
Kevin, was it important for the organization to get closure for Baker Mayfield? And what do you think about him being positioned to potentially be a week 1 starter?
Yeah, I think Andrew and Carolina worked really hard on that over the course of weeks. And I know, like I mentioned to you guys, that was a unique situation. I wish him well. I think he's in a really good spot. And, you know, we'll see. I'm not going to speak for Coach Rule and who plays for them. We'll have time to talk about those type of things.
Kevin, in already determining that Brissett's going to be your starter if Watson is out, what have you seen from him, Jacoby, that gives you confidence?
I think Jacoby, evaluating him before we brought him in here, I think everybody saw a decision maker, a big athlete, a person that could make all the throws. I think that was exciting. Then just being around him, being in the meeting rooms with him, I think his ability to lead, his ability to understand defenses, I've been very impressed.
How difficult is it for him? You know, he doesn't know if he's going to start. You know, he's got to share reps with Deshaun and still get ready for this season.
Yeah, I think that's the life of a backup quarterback. I think Alex Van Pelt has a unique insight into backup quarterbacks and how you prepare, so that's kind of how you operate. You got to be ready to go.
With this being your 3rd training camp here, and how have your expectations and your approach changed now, maybe from year 1 to now coming into year 3?
Yeah, I think we've all tried to learn throughout these years and adjust and, you know, apply some of those learnings. So certainly as we get started in, you know, how we start practice and ramping up, I think those are the type of things that have been helpful. And I just think having this staff together, guys that can challenge each other, push each other, and solve problems just from knowing each other for 3 years.
This is your first camp with a new starting quarterback, and like you mentioned, you have 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
What kind of challenge is that for you and your staff to get everyone on the same page and get ready for the season and manage the suspension?
Yeah, I think that's all part of it, Tony. I think each position you can kind of go down the line and say you have some established players, guys that have done it. Have new players, and that's our job as coaches, to get everybody ready to play. And everybody's going to learn and get ready at their own pace. But with that quarterback room, a lot of long meetings, a lot of work out here on the grass, and really find ways to reach each guy. I think now's the time where we can do more in-depth meetings. We can do more things on the practice field, but really for us is trying to get all those guys ready.
With Deshaun having such an elite skill set, how much do you have to change things up for Jacoby?
Yeah, I think, Mary Kay, I think for us as coaches, you try to build a scheme, offense, defense, special teams, around the players that are available to you, and build the offense around your strengths and minimize your weaknesses, those type of things. So when it comes to Jacoby, when he's in there, there's certain things that we think he does really, really well, and you try to maximize them. Deshaun, likewise. Josh Dobbs does some things really well. So that's our job as coaches, to identify those things first and then build the schemes around them.
I know you always say everyone's competing at this camp, but is it fair to assess that Dobbs versus Rosen as a competition for the number 3 job?
I think we'll let that play out. You know, Josh Rosen just got here, so he's learning. I thought Josh Dobbs has done an outstanding job throughout the spring. He had limited number of reps, but we're evaluating everything. We're evaluating individual periods. We're evaluating how they are in the meeting room. So really pleased with where Josh Dobbs is, and then got to see what Josh Rosen the strides he can take over the next couple weeks. But I certainly think Josh Dobbs has a leg up there.
Just to clarify, when those guys worked out, McCarron and Rosen, were you there to
Yes.
watch it?
What did you like about Rosen? I don't say over McCarron, but what did you like about Rosen to get?
Yeah, I think you know, a skilled football player, has been in a bunch of different systems, so knows a lot of football, but really feel like we have a young player, and we'll see what Josh does over the next couple of weeks and what he can handle.
Given Bell's injury, do you feel the need to bring in another receiver?
No, I think we'll be okay.
Kevin, I know I hear
Last one
everything
here.
you're saying about, you know, guys could be out at any time, but like for your break between minicamp and training camp, like did the uncertainty surrounding Deshaun, like did that affect your time away from football? Wondering,
No.
You're gonna have a starting quarterback in
No,
all this season?
no. We had a really, really good spring, Scott. I'm appreciative of the work that the guys put in. You know, Deshaun, that quarterback room, those guys have worked really hard. So I'm confident in that work, and then I'm confident that we'll hit the ground running here, and we still have a lot of work to do, but I like where we've left off.
But I mean, you don't wake up every day to check in to see what the result's gonna be.
No, I check the weather.
You mentioned the schemes, you know, around the different skill sets of the quarterbacks. How might the differences in those affect your ability to establish the identity of the football team you're training?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think you have to spend a good portion of training camp installing everything, install your offense, install your defense, install special teams. When you get to like that third week, say Chicago week, that's when you may start to streamline into things that you see yourself doing going into the season. Now, you may not show any of that in the game, but around that time, maybe as you're out here at practice, you're starting to streamline into what you think you will do best.